why most people hate their job. So a few years ago, I don't recall the exact year, but there was a statistic that stated 85% of Americans reportedly hate their job. So they don't slightly dislike it, they don't slightly tolerate it, they hate it. So there's a difference there, right? So I'm not really going to talk about if you kind of don't like your job. I'm going to basically talk about hating your job and what to do, why you hate it and what to do. So, when you start out, when you're working a job, typically, you have, maybe you have a degree that you're specialized in to where you're working in the field that you got your certification or degree and you're working in that field. Now, what are some things that might make your job miserable? Well, there's many. So I came up with about 5. So the first is not a great schedule. So, if you're working overnights or you're working second shift, or maybe you have to get up extremely early, most people don't like that, right? Most people don't like working overnight. Most people don't like working second shift. And most people don't like waking up at 4 a.m., 3:30, 4 a.m., right? So that can be miserable, right? Having to sacrifice your sleep, having to work when your family is home, and you're away, right? Maybe that's just one example. But your schedule can make or break your relationship to your job, meaning it can make it either a blessing or miserable, right? But generally speaking, most people don't like their schedule to begin with, right? Most people don't like having to show up at the same time at every day. Now, it is good for routine and discipline, but your schedule and the time you have to wake up, and to the degree that you might have to sacrifice rest, can make your job miserable. So that's number 1. Number 2, the people you work with, right? So if your associates or coworkers are annoying, they gossip, or they don't do their job, they don't listen, they can't take criticism, or they spread rumors, right? It's usually 2 of those factors. Usually it's they're lazy, they don't listen, or they're toxic, right? So, like I said, human beings in general gossip. It's not something new under the sun, right? It's kind of human nature. But to the degree that they gossip, to the degree that they spread rumors, will make it a problem. If some people just are just completely mentally ill, right? They just don't have a conscience, right? And they will spread rumors, they will gossip, they will talk shit behind your back, they'll try to get you fired, right? Some people are just mentally ill. They're dead and they're evil people, right? So I'm not saying that you're just going to be in a gossip-free zone, everyone's going to be lovey-dovey, everything's going to go smooth, right? Of course not. But to what extent, right? Is it every day? Are people going out of their way to talk shit to you? Are people spreading rumors? Or, on the other side of it, is your whole staff completely incompetent? Are they lazy? Do they not listen, right? So it's like, to what degree? Right? Because you're going to have those variables in every job, right? That doesn't go away. Humans are generally lazy. That's not anything new either, right? But to what extent? If it's to the extreme where they're constantly gossiping, they're constantly talking shit, or they're constantly just not listening, being lazy, yeah, that can make your job extremely miserable. It can make it extremely miserable, extremely tiring, and it'll make you hate it, right? So that's number 2, dealing with negative people, really, right? Number 3, basically your job doesn't offer overtime, and it doesn't offer growth, right? Because if you're going to a job every day, right, and you know that the 40 hours that you're working, or whatever, the 45 if your salary, whatever, and you know that money isn't able to compound at the end of the month, and you're not able to take home any extra, right, after taxes, that can be miserable too, because in your mind you're like, wait, I'm going to this job, right, but I'm not able to save money, so it's like a waste of time. My bills are just going, it's just going straight to bills, and it's like, wow, I'm just literally, I'm just here so I can breathe. I'm just working to fucking breathe, right? And when I thought of that myself, I was like, wow. Think about it, right? I mean, you guys know I mentioned this a lot, but 61% and counting of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That number is probably increasing every day as inflation grows, right? So, out of that, stat that I mentioned a couple years ago about the 85%, well, 60% of those people probably hate their job because it's like, wow, I don't get paid enough, and I'm not able to, it might not be because they don't get paid enough. Maybe they're just horrible spenders, but that's beyond the point. The point is they're not able to have extra money. They're not able to build. They're not able to grow their money. So they stay stuck in the same place. And that's terrifying, right? When you go to a job, right, you may not like it. You may not love it. You may hate it. But the worst thing, honestly, and this is my opinion, out of all the things I'm talking about here, the worst thing is going to the job every day for week after week, month to month, year to year, and knowing that it's amounting to nothing. There's no overtime opportunity, right? There's no promotions, right? There's limited promotions, right? There's no raises, right? So, and then, maybe the retirement plan is not sufficient, whatever it is, right? Maybe, or it's a combination of all those things. But that is scary because it's like, wow, I'm literally going here just so I can breathe, right? That's literally what it comes down to. I'm literally going here just so I can eat food and breathe, right? And that's scary, right? So that can really make it miserable. That can make it just an awful experience every single day, right? What else? Yeah. Or, okay, so number 4 is the type of job, right? So we talked about dealing with coworkers, dealing with negative people. We talked about living paycheck to paycheck, not having enough money at the end, the job not offering opportunities, overtime, raises, etc. And then what was the first thing? I forget what the first thing was. I'll have to think about it in a sec. But anyways, moving on to point number 4, the type of job, right? The type of job. So the type of job you work can also make it miserable, right? Or make you hate it. So, a lot of people that, the stereotypical person who's, in a cubicle all day, just entering numbers into a graph or, answering emails or in meetings all day. I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't be able to do that, right? I really wouldn't. I would lose my shit if I had to sit down. Any job, and this is just coming from me, any job that I have to sit down in front of a computer screen or a phone screen every day for 9 hours would be absolutely miserable, would be absolutely debilitating. I wouldn't be able to handle that for a long time. I think I might be able to handle it for like a little bit of time, but for an extended, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, absolutely not. There would be no way I would be able to handle sitting in front of a computer or just doing menial tasks on a freaking computer. I wouldn't be able to withstand that. So that's just my opinion. Some people might be able to handle that. Some people don't like to. Some people who are maybe more lazy or they don't like to move their bodies. Some people might enjoy that, right? And in which case the opposite would be true for them, where they would hate a job where they're constantly on their feet all day, right? Personally, I prefer to be on my feet. I prefer to be moving, right? I just feel best. I feel like my energy gets stuck when I'm sitting. I feel more free when I'm able to just kind of move around all day and work on things here and there, right? So, yeah, definitely the type of job you work can absolutely have a debilitating effect and make you hate your job. There is no doubt about it. So now that we talked about some of the things that might make you hate your job, or maybe you watching this one of the reasons could be why you hate your job. What is the solution? I always talk about this, right? What's the solution? What's the modus operandi? What do we have to do about it? What are we going to do about it, right? So here's the thing. I'm not going to go into what you may like as a career. I'm not going to go into any of that. What I will say though, in your off hours, whether you work overnight, whether you work second shift, whether you work morning shift, 9 to 5, 6 to 2, 11 to 7, 10 to 8, whatever you work, mid shift, whatever, I don't care what it is. you absolutely, and this is a non-negotiable for every single person watching this, including myself. I'm talking to myself too. You absolutely cannot, it is a non-negotiable. You cannot squander your off time. You have to make every hour that you have in your spare time count. You have to make all of it count, right? So for example, this could be maybe you just watching this, maybe you tolerate your job, but you know what? But you're like, you know what? I wanna transition into something else. Maybe I wanna transition into a different job, career field. Awesome, great, that's good, right? But don't be one of these people who just quits their job right off the rip and doesn't have a plan. So what do, right? This is what you do. If you want to transition into a different job field, maybe you want to go into the trades, maybe go back to school, that is awesome. I salute you 100%. What do? You keep your job, right? Even if you're living paycheck to paycheck, right? Because unless you live with your parents, right? Maybe some of you do, maybe some of you don't, but unless you live with your parents, you gotta put food on the table, right? You gotta pay for the light bill, you gotta pay for utilities, you gotta pay for gas, you gotta pay for insurance, this and that, everything, right? Keep your job, right? Keep your job. And in your off time, right, it's very simple. You go online, you look up degrees, you look up certifications that you can get, whether, like I said, whether it's the trades, whether it's a forklift, whether it's security, whatever it is, right? There's literally millions of things you can do, right? Whatever you want to do, right? You go online, you enroll yourself in a certification for that specific career field. And in the meantime, when you come home, you set a time, maybe it could be different day to day, but you set a time on every single day, 7 days, 6 days a week minimum, that you're going to work on this, that you're going to develop your skill, you're going to study, you're going to get a certification, and then you're going to start applying to jobs, right? If that's what you want to do. If it's entrepreneurship, it's a similar process, right? You enroll in a course or a mentorship program that you can learn from someone who has experience, and you do the work that they tell you to do. And over the years, right? And I don't know, this, like I said, different things take different amount of time for different people depending on what they're embarking upon, right? So entrepreneurship might take, to fully transition might take longer than someone just transitioning into another, job, right? Some certifications for like a forklift, for example, I think you only need like 6 months or whatever. CDL, I think it's the same thing, around 6 months, maybe a year. Don't quote me on that. But it's different based on what you're embarking upon. So the point here is to not get so fixed up on how long it's going to take you to transition. What you should be focused on is the how and the what. So how am I going to do it? And then what am I going to do day to day to make that transition a reality in the near future, right? Because like I said, if you're working 5-6 days a week in your spare time on your transition phase into that next career field, job, business, whatever, it's eventually going to come, right? Eventually you will transition. But here's what people don't do, right? They don't do this correctly. They just hop from job to job. They look for the thing that's going to pay $2-3 more. They look for what's the next easiest thing, right, that I can get paid the amount. Well, hey, guess what, dummy? Everyone's thinking like that. Everyone's thinking about what's the thing that I can do with the least amount of work to get paid the most. You shouldn't ask that question, because that's what 95% of people do. Oh, how can I get paid more? How can I get paid more but have no skills, have no degrees or certifications, or you have no special talent or abilities in that specific thing, right? Now, I'm not saying, like I said, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying you need a degree to be, but like trades, you gotta get training on how to be an electrician, how to be a plumber, how to be a mechanic, etc., right? Business, you got to develop sales skills, you have to develop the ability to influence, right, etc. So you have to ask yourself this question, not, hey, I'm going to be a job hopper and look for the next best thing, because that's what everyone does. What you have to ask yourself is this: what skills am I willing to develop that's going to lead to a high income job? Because like I said, this whole this whole loop of, you know, with most people, 90% of people who are just going from job to job, hoping something's going to pay more, hoping something's going to give them a raise, have a better retirement plan, is bullshit. The things that are the most difficult, and remember this is a life lesson that I've had to embody over the years. The things that typically are the most difficult are the ones that have the highest reward. So a business is something that's hard to develop. It's hard to run, right, at times. But the sky's the limit with the income, right? Businesses all over the world make multi-billion dollars a year, right? Depending on what business it is. Same thing with trades, right? Trades pay multiple six figures. Why? Because no one wants to go do trades. No one wants to go sit there and study for 2 years to be an electrician, right? People want to just jump from this week to that week to this job that might pay a little bit more, right? So guys, really what this comes down to is your ability to be disciplined in your off time and your ability to delay gratification. Because that's what most people, like I said, most people just jump from job to job hoping to get a little bit of a dopamine spike when they make $2 extra an hour. That's bullshit. That's not going to lead you anywhere. What's going to lead you somewhere is developing a skill that most people don't want to develop, right? So most people don't want to go into trades. Most people don't have a vision for a business. Most people don't want to go to medical school, go to law school, go into engineering, right? Things that require long-term applied discipline, people don't want to do because, like I said, most people are fucking lazy, right? So that's really what it comes down to. I know I kind of talked about a lot of things in this video, but like I said, you know, working minimum wage jobs, guys, can be the most debilitating thing, especially, like I said, it's like the bottom pit of society, right? Like there's degrees of people that like have like discipline, work ethic, morals and ethics and understanding, and those people are up here. And like, I'm not gonna say all minimum wage workers are like this, but a lot of minimum wage workers are typically your fucking dropouts in high school. They didn't show up to class, they were lazy. They typically are, now I'm not saying all of them, like I said, I don't wanna be stereotypical here, but they typically are involved in drugs. They typically do things that are fucking low conscious, low level, they do low intellect activities, right? And that's why they're stuck making fucking nothing, pretty much, right? So, yeah, guys, like I said, it can be tough working a job, especially with these types of people, you know, or if you don't like your job, if you don't like the type of job you work in, you don't like the schedule, if it doesn't pay enough, that's obviously going to make you hate it. But like I said, the solution is difficult. The solution requires persistence. The solution requires long-term vision, but it's worth it because how much do you want to escape hell? Hell's down here. Hell's you working minimum wage, working with idiots, working with people who gossip, making fucking nothing. That's hell to you, right? That's hell to me. I would not be able to withstand that for forever, right? So what are you willing to do to get out of that? What are you willing to do to transition into something better, right? And personally, I'm willing to work for years if it takes in my off time to develop myself into a new career field, right? If that was the case. So yeah, guys, definitely something to think of. Definitely something to think about if you hate your job or you're looking to transition into something else. So yeah, that's it. That's all. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below. As always, I will talk to you guys soon. Peace.